A 30,000-pound piece of super hard metal and bombs fell through the dark Iranian sky at 700 miles per hour. It took just 43 seconds. The GBU-57, which is a huge bomb called the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, can go through 200 feet of really strong concrete and hard rock. It was about to make a giant hole right where Iran's Fordo nuclear site was hiding deep underground. That place was built so deep that normal bombs wouldn't do anything, like lighting firecrackers on a mountain. But now, it was going to find out why Americans don't get free healthcare. How did this bomb even get there? Well, it's all because of one of the most amazing and carefully planned military missions in the past 20 years. 18 hours before that moment, a bunch of workers were super busy around a special airplane at Whitman Air Force Base. It was one of only 19 flying B-2 bombers in the whole world. Each of these bombers cost $2.1 billion. Yes, billion with a B. That means the plane is worth more than its weight in gold. The main guy in charge of the plane checked everything before takeoff. 14 GBU-57 bombs were loaded on spinning launchers. The plane's extra fuel tanks were filled with 180,000 pounds of fuel called JP-8. The plane's stealth radars were ready and super sneaky. At exactly 12:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, June 21st, the first B-2 bomber started moving down the super long runway, 12,400 feet long. The plane has 4 engines made by General Electric, and each one gives off 17,300 pounds of power. They're much quieter than regular jet engines, but still strong enough to lift this 336,500-pound airplane full of bombs up into the sky. The pilot flew the plane gently upward so it didn't give off too much heat that satellites could see. Not even friendly satellites should see where it was going. But not all the B-2 planes were going to Iran that night. 7 B-2s flew toward Iran, while others went the opposite direction toward the Pacific Ocean. This trick was simple but very clever. Russian and Chinese satellites that saw the planes heading west would think they were going to Guam, which would confuse their intelligence people. Meanwhile, the real attack team flew east, hidden in the dark Atlantic night. The flight across the Atlantic Ocean is when things start getting tricky. B-2 bombers can fly about 6,000 miles without stopping for gas. But that's only if they use their built-in fuel. The extra tanks add more fuel but also make the plane slower, so now they can only fly 4,500 miles. But from Missouri to Iran and back is 1,400 miles. So yeah, they need to stop and get gas. The first time they get refueled is around 4 a.m. above the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Now imagine trying to stick a fuel hose into a tiny hole while flying in the sky at 400 miles per hour in the dark with bumpy air. It's kind of like trying to put thread through a needle while riding a wild bull in a dark room. The tanker plane has this flying hose thing called a boom. The pilot of the B-2 has to stay in the exact right spot, 30 feet behind and 15 feet lower. Can't move even a tiny bit. If they mess up, the plane could get damaged and have to turn back. So the pilot flies super carefully. The fuel comes in fast, 1,000 pounds every minute. The person in the tanker plane holding the boom is super focused, even though it's freezing outside. By 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, after 2 more times of getting gas and 15.5 hours of flying, the team of bombers gets close to Iraq. And now the real action is about to begin. 4 F-22 Raptor fighter jets show up out of nowhere, like magic. Their radars can see everything 200 miles away, but no one can see them. The lead pilot talks in secret code that sounds super weird if you don't know what it means. Disco 47, sweet picture, clean no factor. That just means no enemies ahead. These F-22s are ready for a fight. Each one has 6 AMRAAM missiles and 2 Sidewinders. If any Iranian jet tries to come up and fight, they'll be in big trouble. Behind them, 8 F-35 jets are flying too. Iran's Air Force might be okay, but against all these top jets, better to just stay home. At 6:39 p.m. local time, the first B-2 bomber gets ready to drop its bomb. The pilot turns on the GPS system. It talks to lots of satellites to know exactly where to drop, within 5 feet. That's super close. Inside the plane, the launcher holding the bomb starts spinning to get ready. The Fordo place they want to hit is 300 feet deep under a mountain. That mountain is made of rock that's been there since before humans made the wheel. In about a minute, the US military is going to change the look of that mountain a lot. But guess what? These bombers aren't the only ones dropping stuff tonight. 2 hours before that bomb run, at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, about 1,200 miles away from where the B-2 planes were flying into Iran, a Navy captain stood inside a control room. He was inside a super cool submarine, probably the USS Georgia, and stared at a big countdown clock on a screen. This submarine is not just any normal one. It was first built as a huge missile submarine that could launch nuclear bombs. But they spent $700 million to change it into a guided missile submarine. That means it no longer carries giant nuclear bombs. Now it holds 154 Tomahawk missiles. Those are powerful cruise missiles that can hit things on land. That's more than even an entire big Navy fleet of destroyers and cruisers can carry. Each of these missiles costs $2 million. They carry a 1,000-pound bomb and can hit a target 2,500 miles away with perfect aim, like hitting a small target from super far away. The submarine is underwater, about 60 feet deep. At that depth, it's kind of easy to see if you know where to look. There's this metal stick called a mast that pops up like a periscope. If someone's radar was pointed there, they might notice it. But the Iranians are watching the wrong spot. They're looking at the busy, tight parts of the Persian Gulf, not the deep part where this submarine is hiding. Now, firing a missile from underwater is not like pressing a button in a video game. Each missile sits inside a tube filled with special gas. When it's time to launch, a small explosion happens in the tube, and the gas pushes the missile out like a cork popping from a soda bottle. Once it gets out of the water, the missile flies straight up at 50 feet per second. Then its rocket engine lights up and it zooms into the sky. But here's the thing, when you push a 3,000-pound missile out of a sub, the sub wants to go the other way, down. That's called Newton's third law. For every action, there's an opposite reaction. The team inside the sub has to quickly move water around inside the sub's tanks to stay at the right depth. If they mess up, the sub might float too high and get spotted on radar, or go too deep and get damaged. So they have to be really careful. At 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time, the first missile shoots out of the water. Its rocket burns for 12 seconds, making it go 550 miles per hour and climbing up. Then the rocket part falls away, and a small jet engine inside takes over. This engine is like a mini airplane motor that lets the missile fly low and fast. By 6:00 p.m., all 30 missiles are in the air. Each one uses a special radar to stay the right height above the ground, sometimes just 100 feet. They also have eyes that compare the land they see with pictures stored inside them, kind of like having Google Maps in their brains that can't be tricked or jammed. The flight to a place called Isfahan will take 127 minutes. That's not random. That timing is picked on purpose so the missiles hit 30 minutes before the B-2 bombers arrive. Why? To mess up Iran's defenses and make things crazy before the big attack comes. While Iran is focused on the big stealth bombers up high, these sneaky cruise missiles will come in low, like shadows. The captain watches the missiles fly off into the distance. On his screen, each missile looks like a tiny blue triangle with a countdown clock. The submarine has done its job for this mission, but the weapons it just fired are only getting started. These new Block 5 Tomahawk missiles can do more than just blow things up. They also have cameras and send back pictures through satellites while flying. That way the US can see what's happening in real time. Now the submarine goes back down deep underwater where it's super hard to hear or find it. The water layers make sound bounce weird, so sonar doesn't work well. While the submarine hides, those 30 cruise missiles are out there flying toward history. But wait, there's still one more big move before the B-2s even get close to Iran. At 4:00 p.m. Eastern Time, a huge group of fighter jets takes off ahead of the B-2 bombers. It's the biggest group of planes flying together since the war in Iraq. Over 60 jets fly together in a super organized way. At the front, 4 F-22 Raptor jets are flying really high, 50,000 feet up. Behind them, 8 F-35A jets fly at 35,000 feet. Then come a bunch of FAR-18 Super Hornet jets at 25,000 feet. And behind those, there are 4 EA-18G Growlers. These ones are not for fighting. They do electronic warfare, which means they mess with radars and radios. Even more F-18 jets are flying around in circles in the Gulf, ready to jump in if there's trouble. Big tanker planes, KC-135s and KC-46s, are flying nearby to give gas if needed. There's also a spy plane called RC-135 Rivet Joint. It's listening to every electronic signal in a 500-mile area, kind of like a giant flying eavesdropper. Now here's the smart plan they came up with. The F-35 jets are only carrying air-to-air missiles, 4 each. These jets are super sneaky and act like spies in the sky. They find enemy radars but don't shoot them. The real attack comes from the Super Hornets. There are dozens of them. Some are loaded with missiles that destroy radars, called HARMs. Some are ready for dogfights, and others are there to protect. Altogether, they have more than 60 HARMs ready to go. Plus, the 4 Growlers each carry 2 more HARMs. That's enough missiles to hit every radar in Iran twice. But they won't use them all unless they need to. The F-35s will find the radars, send the locations through a system called Link 16, and then the Super Hornets or Growlers will launch the missiles. If Iranian planes try to interfere, the F-22 Raptors will take care of them. All the planes are spread out over a 60-mile wide area. That way they can watch everything together like one big team. The F-35s use their fancy radar systems, called AN/ASQ-239, to see enemy defenses without making noise. If they find a threat, they secretly send that info to the others, who can shoot without showing where the F-35s are hiding. About 50 miles to the south, the Growlers begin their music show. Each one has 3 special machines called ALQ-99 pods. These pods send out 30,000 watts of jamming power. That's a lot. They jam different radio and radar signals all at once. The people running Iran's radars look at their screens and start freaking out. The screens show fake planes popping up and disappearing, and distances and directions that make no sense. It's like trying to play hide and seek in a haunted house where the walls keep moving. At 5:32 p.m., one of Iran's big missile defense radars makes a mistake. It's an S-300 system near Natanz. They break radio silence and turn on their radar to try and see what's going on. That's a big oops. As soon as it sends out a signal, 3 American planes are ready to shoot. First, an F-35 hears it using just its sensors. Then it tells a Super Hornet where it is. That Super Hornet launches a missile called AGM-88G. At the same time, a Growler starts jamming that radar even more. The missile flies super fast, 2.5 times the speed of sound. It remembers where the radar is, even if the Iranians turn it off after 15 seconds. But it's too late. The missile knows exactly where to go and hits within 30 feet. Boom! That one radar system, which cost $100 million, is now just a pile of burning junk. The Super Hornet jets work in teams. One jet points out the target, the other shoots. If any of Iran's mobile missile launchers try to move, the F-35s can see the heat they give off and help the Super Hornets hit them. Working together like this, stealth planes finding targets and older jets doing the shooting, turns out to be super powerful. By 5:35 p.m., they've used 31 HARMs and taken out 31 radars and missile sites. And now the rest of the radars in Iran go silent because everyone's scared to turn them on. Iran's soldiers remember what happened in old wars like Desert Storm. They know how dangerous these American jets are, so they choose to stay quiet instead of fighting back. The Growlers switch to jamming radios now. They block everything from military walkie-talkies to big army radios. Even Iran's air traffic control and missile teams can't talk to each other. Regular people's phones stop working too because the jamming spreads into the civilian networks near the target area. The F-22 Raptors keep flying way up high, watching for any brave Iranian pilot, but nobody takes off. The Super Hornets fly around in set patterns, ready with more HARMs. The F-35s keep watching everything, drawing a perfect map of what's left on the ground. At 5:39 p.m. Eastern Time, the airspace is totally quiet and safe. Not one missile has been shot at U.S. planes. Not one enemy jet has taken off. The path is clear. The B-2 bombers now begin their final run. Now 125 American aircraft are flying through the sky like they own it. It's like a big invisible highway in the air, 50 miles wide and 200 miles deep, where no one can touch them. No one from Iran is shooting. No enemy planes are flying. Everything is quiet. At exactly 5:40 p.m. Eastern Time, the first B-2 bomber opens its bomb doors. It's time for the main event. At that moment, the first GBU-57 bomb, also called the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or MOP, drops out of the plane. For a second, it just hangs in the air at 45,000 feet. Then it starts falling. Its GPS system talks to satellites and locks onto its target. The tail fins open with perfect timing. Gravity pulls the 30,000-pound bomb, yes, 30,000 pounds, about the same as 3 school buses, straight down. The pilot can feel the whole plane bounce a little as the bomb drops. But the plane's system adjusts instantly so the plane stays steady. The person in charge of weapons inside the plane looks at the screen and says exactly what the instruments show. Bird away, good separation, GPS lock confirmed. That means the bomb dropped perfectly and is locked onto its target. Now let's do some bomb math. The energy a falling object has is calculated by this formula: half the mass times the speed squared. This big bomb is falling at 700 miles per hour. That gives it 1.5 billion joules of energy. That's like a train crashing full speed into a wall. This bomb is made of really tough steel, the same kind used in tank armor. When it hits the ground, it can go through 200 feet of strong concrete or 40 feet of hard granite. And the Fordo site it's aiming at is buried under both. At 5:40 p.m. and 43 seconds, exactly 43 seconds after the bomb was dropped, it hits the target. The ground shakes so much it's like a mini earthquake. It even shows up as a 2.3 on the Richter scale. But the bomb doesn't explode right away. That would be a waste. Instead, the bomb's smart fuse counts down as it goes deeper through the rock and concrete. It waits for the perfect moment to explode. Then boom, it explodes 180 feet underground. The explosion creates a big empty space about 30 feet wide. The shock wave travels through the rock super fast, 15,000 feet per second. It finds every weak spot, every crack. This rock was made to handle huge pressure, about 10,000 pounds per square inch. But this blast brings on 100,000 psi. It doesn't just crack the rock, it turns it into powder. But here's the thing, one bomb isn't enough to break everything. The people who planned this mission knew that, so they decided to drop 12 bombs on the Fordo site. Each one was aimed in a way that the shock waves from all the explosions would work together, like a team, and make the mountain destroy itself. One by one, more B-2 bombers follow. Each drops another MOP bomb at the exact right time. From the ground, it looks like meteors are falling from the sky. Bright flashes of light, followed by thunder rolling through the mountains. At another site called Natanz, things are a little different. Only 2 bombs are needed there, because the place isn't buried as deep. The people controlling the bombs even wait a bit before dropping them. Why? Because if the 2 bombs go off too close together, their explosions might cancel each other out instead of helping. While all this is happening, about 700 miles away, those Tomahawk cruise missiles that were launched earlier from the submarine USS Georgia are reaching their final move. Each missile turns on its camera and looks down. It compares the ground it sees to the pictures stored inside. This fancy system, called the AN/DPW-23 Scene Matcher, makes sure the missile is still on the right path. If not, it adjusts its course. These missiles have been flying for 2 hours, using about 350 pounds of fuel. They've been following the shape of the ground the whole time, like robot birds with built-in GPS. Now, over at a place called Isfahan, the night workers at a nuclear site hear something weird. It's the sound of those missiles. Their engines make a special whine sound as they fly in at 550 miles per hour. But hearing the missiles is very different from stopping them. The site has some defenses. Short-range missile systems called Tor-M1s, but they're already super confused because of all the jamming the American jets are doing. These Tor-M1s can only shoot down things within 12 kilometers. But at the speed these Tomahawks are flying, that gives them only 49 seconds from spotting the missile to stopping it. That's not enough time. At exactly 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time, the first Tomahawk hits the storage building where Iran keeps uranium hexafluoride, a really toxic chemical used for nuclear stuff. The missile's 1,000-pound warhead explodes in a big blast. The whole building is destroyed, and the explosion creates a poisonous cloud. The place is now too dangerous for anyone to enter. In the next 45 seconds, the other 29 missiles arrive one by one. Each one hits a specific building. These targets were picked from years and years of spy work and planning. While all this is going on, the B-2 bombers are already flying back home. Their computers show they have 180,000 pounds of fuel left, just enough to meet their tanker planes and still follow the rules for how much fuel they need. Behind them, 3 of Iran's nuclear sites are on fire in the night. Total time spent over the target? Just 25 minutes. Number of surface-to-air missiles fired at US jets? 0. Number of Iranian fighter jets that even tried to take off? None. The surprise was complete. The plan worked perfectly. In less than 30 minutes, the US military did something no one else could for decades. They wiped out Iran's nuclear abilities completely.